After a desperate attempt to save his own life, Dr. Michael Morbius stalks the night as Morbius the Living Vampire. Suffering from a rare blood disease, Morbius turned to a cure that used vampire bat DNA. It mutated him into a blood-sucking creature of the night, a pseudo-vampire. Initially an adversary of Spider-Man and Blade, Morbius became a vigilante while struggling with his insatiable lust for blood and his subsequent efforts to cure his horrific condition. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Michael Morbius. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and follow us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Michael Morbius was born and raised in Nafplio, Greece. The son of Macrioa Morbius, Michael was raised by his single mother after his father left them. Michael experienced an isolated childhood due to his rare blood condition. Despite his disease, he was an intellectually gifted and spent his time reading books. Michael had two best friends, Emo Nikos and his sister Liza Nikos. The three of them were as close as family. But complication arose when he professed his feelings to Elizabeth and she rejected him. While in college, Michael and Emo became brilliant scientists, winning a Nobel Prize for their work in biochemistry. They attempted to cure the blood disease and developed an experimental treatment involving vampire bats and electroshocks. Its side effects turned him into a pseudo-vampire who needed to consume blood in order to survive, and gained typical vampire characteristics such as an aversion to sunlight and the power of flight, enhanced strength, speed, and a healing factor. His overall appearance changed as well. He gained fangs, his nose flattened to appear more bat-like, and his skin became extremely pale. Additionally, the victims of his bite would turn into living vampires themselves. When he first experienced the change, he killed Emo as he could not control his bloodlust. When Liza learned of what happened to her brother, she swore revenge against Morbius. Morbius traveled to the US by ship, and in his bloodthirst slaughtered the crew. He tried to kill himself but failed and took a room at a beach house where he encountered Spider-Man, who was, at the time, trying to reverse the process that had given him 6 arms. Morbius attacked Spider-Man, but their battle was interrupted by Dr. Connors, who transformed into a lizard. Morbius escaped, but not before biting Connors, which partially returned him to normal. Spider-Man and Connors realized that Morbius's blood could be a cure for both of them and decided to help each other. They tracked him down and after another battle extracted some of his blood, causing Connors to remain in his human state and Spider-Man to lose his additional arms. Morbius was washed ashore and found by Jefferson and Jacob Bolt, on whom he tried to feed after being revived. He turned Jefferson into a vampire. Meanwhile, Morbius' fiancée, Martine Bancroft, tried contacting the Fantastic Four to help Morbius. The Human Torch sought out Morbius' former colleague, Hans Jorgensen, and joined forces with Spider-Man during another battle with Morbius. During the fight, Morbius accidentally killed Jefferson Bolt and fled. When news of Jorgensen's supposed kidnapping by Spider-Man reached Professor X, an old colleague of Jorgensen, he sent the X-Men to track down Spider-Man. When he discovered that Morbius was truly to blame, he sent the mutants to capture him instead. After a lengthy battle, the X-Men managed to defeat Morbius and rescue Jorgensen. Jorgensen was able to cure Spider-Man, who thanked the X-Men before leaving them to deal with Dr. Morbius. Morbius saved Amanda Saint from the Demon Fire cult and helped her in her search for her parents. Michael Morbius and Martine Bancroft battled Reverend Damon and encountered the caretakers of Arcturus. He visited the land within, home of the cat people. Battling their greatest warrior Balcatar, Balcatar and Morbius worked together to take down Damon. He was hunted by Blade the Vampire Slayer until Blade became aware of his plight. The two cooperated to battle Damon. Damon creates Terra, a psychic vampire. Morbius is able to kill Damon and Terra. He then encountered Simon Strode, a CIA agent tasked with hunting him. Together they battled the Hell Eyes. Morbius, Martine, and Strode later battled vampires at Mason Manor. Morbius joined the Team Legion of Monsters, who united by chance to investigate the appearance of the Starseed. Though Starseed was a benevolent entity, both the werewolf and Morbius, overcome by their monstrous hunger, attacked it. Ghost Rider and Man-Thing attempt to intervene, but Starseed was unable to overcome his fear of Man-Thing and suffered severe burns at his touch. The dying Starseed attempted to cure the Legion of their monstrous forms, but was too weak and died. Morbius visited his old scientist friend Ronson Slade, in hope for a cure to his disease. Ronson, however, had become a werewolf and Morbius was forced to kill him. After Morbius and the Thing battled the Living Eraser from Dimension Z, Morbius used the Living Eraser's dimensional transportation devices to return to Earth. The Empathoid, who wished to learn how it felt to be a vampire, used Morbius to attack Spider-Man, but Morbius resisted. Spider-Man managed to knock out Morbius, causing the Empathoid to leave his body and possess Spider-Man to battle Morbius once more. He led him into a football stadium where the emotions of all the sports fans overwhelmed the Empathoid, causing it to leave Spider-Man's body and pass out. Spider-Man allowed Morbius to depart unharmed. Driven mad by his bloodlust, Morbius battled Spider-Man again, but was restored to his human form when he hit by a freak bolt of lightning. He remained human for some years, assisting both Spider-Woman and the West Coast Avengers at the various times, but his vampiric condition eventually returned. After Michael's disease took a new course and his hunger started to come faster than before, he went to the Empire State University looking for Dr. Andrea Jansen, but was stopped by Spider-Man, though he did manage to bite some blood off of him to calm his hunger before escaping. Morbius arrived at Dr. Andrea's office in the science building of the Empire State University and explained to her how the feeding satiated his hunger for shorter periods of time. Spider-Man arrived once again and didn't believe Morbius, claiming that he liked being a living vampire. The two fought and Morbius was about to kill the hero, but was stopped by Mary Jane Watson, who told him that he should show that he was willing to fight the hunger. Andrea claimed that she would help him and brought him a package of blood so that he didn't have to kill, which Michael accepted. In reality, Andrea was working for scientist Hydra agent Dr. Lucius Crown, who kidnapped Morbius to study him. Spider-Man came to his rescue, but when he freed Morbius, he attacked Crown. As they grappled, the island began to explode. In the resulting explosion, Morbius drained his blood. This later led him to becoming a living vampire like Morbius called Hunger. Morbius was registered under the SHRA. He was sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. to convince Blade to register. Sometime after this, once again suicidal and searching for a way to end his life, he traveled to San Francisco, where he took to living in an abandoned church frequented by young drug addicts, while he attempted to go without feeding. One of the addicts, Roxy, whom Morbius related to the most, overdosed and was going to die, which led her boyfriend to plead with Morbius to turn her. Roxy had gone too long without breathing when Morbius fed upon her. When she turned, the brain damage the lack of oxygen had caused rendered her feral and only interested in feeding. Morbius watched as she killed two of her companions and only stepped in when the last of them, who had shown him kindness and compassion, was to become Roxy's victim. Morbius killed Roxy by breaking her neck and left Gilly, her victim, alone and terrified of him. Michael worked with Armor, an organization tasked with keeping an eye on extra-dimensional activity on the planet. As such, when crossover with a zombie-infected universe occurred in Man-Thing's swamp, Command was dispatched to investigate. However, it was revealed that Morbius had been incapacitated and replaced within the organization by a zombified, extra-dimensional version of himself. How long this had been the case was not clear. A member of Armor came in to check on the zombie Morbius, and found the real Morbius, but was then bitten by the zombie Morbius and incited a zombie plague. When Morbius was able to move again, he snuck behind his zombie counterpart and drove a stake through his heart. This turned him into ashes. After the zombie plague was taken care of, it was discovered that the zombie Simon Garth and the head of Deadpool's zombie counterpart escaped. Morbius gathered the Midnight Suns to search for Deadpool and Simon Garth and disposed of anything infected with the zombie plague. Morbius was working on a cure for the zombie virus but was unable to find it. As the virus genetic code was too complicated to decipher, Morbius found a plainstorm has opened a gateway to alternate realities. Each of them had a different zombie virus, and the only way to decipher his home reality's virus was to compare it with other zombie viruses. Morbius took some equipment from Armor and sent Howard the Duck and Machine Man to the alternate realities to bring him a sample of each virus. Sometime later, the director of Armor, Charles Little Sky, discovered Morbius's plan and the missing armor tech and put him under arrest. Morbius, along with Werewolf and Man-Thing, reformed the Legion of Monsters while adding as new members the Living Mummy and Amphibian. They worked on an underground city located beneath Manhattan called Monster Metropolis, where they vowed to protect monsters that were hunted down. After the Punisher was killed by Daken, the Legion took Frank's body and Morbius resurrected him as a Frankenstein-like creature to help them against the Hunter of Monster Special Force, led by the mysterious Hellsguard, who killed monsters for not being of God. Frank was later turned into a human again and left the Legion while Morbius became the leader in Monster Metropolis and tried to institute law with the Legion of Monsters serving as deputies. Morbius and Amphibian later arrested Dimensional Man for feeding off sleeping monsters in Monster Metropolis. They captured him with a special machine that blocked his powers. Michael then took the criminal to his lab where he would send him to a containment cell to serve a sentence before being interrupted by a severe power surge. Elsa Bloodstone appeared in their city while she was chasing a trail of mysterious monster that killed many people. Morbius realized that someone or something was using a supernatural virus to control monsters and asked Bloodstone for help. This virus spread throughout Monster Metropolis, and after a visit with Dracula, Morbius and Elsa eventually discovered that the virus was actually in Morbius's own blood. In despair, Michael thought about destroying the entire city with a bomb until Bloodstone freed the Dimensional Man from his imprisonment, whose leeching power sucked up the virus and caused him to go mad. Morbius later understood that he was able to control those infected as he was the origin of the virus, saving Monster Metropolis in the process. Later, he secretly joined Horizon Labs with the help of his friend Max Modell, who was in charge of the lab. He took the identity of Number 6 and in a hazmat suit to protect his true identity. Assisted Mr. Fantastic in preparing the cure to the Spider Powers virus. When Peter Parker tried to investigate the identity of Number 6, he accidentally provoked Morbius, who had been using the cure to try to develop a basis for a cure for his own condition, into a frenzy. Morbius was driven to leave when it was revealed that he has been working with the Lizard. He had been trying to find a cure for both of their conditions. He used DNA samples from the corpse of Doc Connor's son Billy to create a cure that would restore the Lizard to human form, but he failed to recognize that the Lizard had fully destroyed Doc Connor's human persona. They left the Lizard alone in Morbius's lab, allowing the Lizard to release blood into the laboratory's air vents to provoke the injured Morbius into attacking the other scientists. Morbius fled the laboratory with Spider-Man following. Morbius was captured by Spider-Man and locked up in a cell in the RAF. When Peter Parker's mind was transferred into Dr. Octopus's dying body, he organized a group of prisoners at the RAF to capture Spider-Man, who now contained Doc Ock's mind. During the breakout, Morbius offered his help but was refused. He chose to work with the Lizard instead. The cells turned off and Morbius escaped from the RAF. Morbius swam all the way to Barretto Point where he met a man named Justin that he borrowed some clothes from. Justin told Michael that he should go to Brownsville, where superheroes are not even heard of. During his first nights at Brownsville, Morbius quickly realized that the streets were filled with crime. While digging through the trash for food, Morbius was approached by a young man that tried to steal his wallet earlier and was working for Noah St. Germain, who threatened the living vampire. The two ended up having a fight in a subway, which led Morbius mortally wounded with a gunshot wound in his chest, even after saving St. Germain's life from an oncoming train. Morbius killed Noah and his gang, after killing the Godfather of Brownsville, and incited a gang war against the Rose. After the Battle of Brownsville, he escaped to Manhattan to Horizon Labs to finally cure his vampirism. Morbius worked with the new Superior Spider-Man. Morbius found out the Rose had an ultimate nullifier in Brownsville and teamed up with the Legion of Monsters. Morbius killed the Rose. During Carnage's rampage with his cult of Null, Michael was recruited by Iron Fist along with some other heroes in order to rescue Misty Knight, who was stuck in the sewers being chased by Demogoblin and Carnage's hive. The heroes entered the sewers and looked for Misty Knight, with Morbius fighting off many of Carnage's symbiote minions. After a long time fighting the waves of the symbiotes, Morbius pondered on the idea that Misty may have died already, but this was quickly shut down when the team found her as she was about to be killed by the Demogoblin and a Man-Wolf until they rescued her. Morbius then convinced Man-Wolf to free himself from Carnage's control in order to save Misty Knight from the Demon Goblin. The heroes were later taken away from the sewers by Cloak. Morbius was later brought back to the fight in order to help turn the tide against Carnage's horde. In Greenpoint, Brooklyn, Morbius stopped Melter and his henchmen from experimenting on people, brutally beating almost all of them and later deciding to use their stolen resources to create a formula that at first seemed to completely cure his hunger, but it later returned at an accelerated rate as his body deepened into his vampirism. With his affliction made stronger, Michael ate all the blood bag he had in his makeshift lab before looking into his microscope how his cells have mutated and started to consume him. After his discovery, Morbius was attacked in his hideout by Melter and a mysterious woman. As he fought against the two and was brutally beaten, Morbius also fought his desire to consume their blood. He eventually realized that the mysterious woman was Elizabeth Nikos, sister of his best friend Emil Nikos, who was out for revenge against the living vampire for the death of his brother. As Michael's rage grew, Elizabeth created a huge explosion, severely weakened Morbius, but also allowed him to escape. He later broke into a facility to work on a cure but was stopped by Spider-Man. After a brief fight with the hero, Morbius managed to get some blood off of Spider-Man in order to control himself and explain to the hero his new condition. The two then went to Curtis Connor's summer house in Long Island so they could work on a cure for Michael, who asked Spider-Man for some blood so they could reverse the effect of his mutated cells. The cure restored Morbius to his previous condition, though he was still unsatisfied as it did not make him human again. Elizabeth later broke into the house and attacked the two. As Nikos kept forcing his hand, Morbius lost control once again and started to mutate into a less human creature. Michael eventually agreed to her and begged Liza to kill him, but she took too long and his final mutation manifested before he could be killed. Morbius attacked Elizabeth but was stopped by Spider-Man, who let him get some of his blood so that his changes get temporarily reversed. Nikos then revealed to them that Melter took Michael's research and was going to use it on other humans. The three decided to have a truce in order to create an antidote for the infected using some of Elizabeth's blood. Morbius and the others went back to Melter's hideout in Greenpoint in order to stop him. Michael fought a mutated Melter while Spider-Man and Nikos fought other mutated humans. Morbius used the antidote on Melter, but it wasn't working as the villain altered the original formula. He then went to Melter's lab and adjusted the cure to the new formula, which proved to be successful. Morbius also used the same base serum to return to his original non-mutated vampire form and cure the other creatures that got away. The next night, Michael was visited by Elizabeth while working on a cure for the infected. Liza decided to let go of her revenge, though she still couldn't forgive him, decided to cut all ties with him before leaving. Somewhere down in Midtown, Morbius was spotted biting a whole new number of victims before being confronted by Spider-Man. The two battled, before Morbius seemingly fled the scene. Unsuspecting Spider-Man investigated the victims before being caught by surprise and bitten by him. Morbius claimed that his blood was not working, meaning that he tried to use it to cure himself. Morbius later chased Spider-Man all the way to the Beyond Tower, where the security systems there attacked him and blasted one of his arms off. Spider-Man fainted due to the effect of the bite, and Morbius fought off Misty Knight and Colleen Wing, whom finally immobilized him with a spider-like mechanical straitjacket. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.